Last time in this Surah Ar-Rahman series,
there are people who fought their desires, right? And for them, the ultimate climax of heaven is that they no longer have to fight their desires. Then there are people who just worked and worked and worked and worked. They just wanted to do ihsan. Their focus wasn't fighting their desires or getting away from the haram. Their focus was, Ya Allah, life is short. I gotta do more before I die.
Ar-Rahman, allama al-Qur'an.
To help you follow along and reflect more deeply, we've created a companion workbook for this series. Download it at bayyina.com/Rahman.
متكئين على رفرف خضر وعبقري حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان تبارك اسم ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. متكئين على رفرف خضر وعبقري حسان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. فالحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Everybody, once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. We're almost at the end of the surah. Allah is going to give us the climax of this second level of Jannah by describing people now reclined again, sitting back again. And as I told you, it seems that the people of Ihsan, the ultimate reward for them is that they finally get to relax and not have to worry about pleasing their Rabb anymore. It also seems like a fitting conclusion to where the entire discussion of Jannah started. It started with they're afraid of standing in front of their master, and it ends with they are sitting back relaxed, right? So there's this really beautiful beginning and end to this entire conversation about Jannah. Now this description takes another turn. Allah says, "Ala rafrafin khudrin." So ittaka'a means to lean back, and this is another variation of this verb is tawakka'a, like atawakka'u alayha wa ahushu biha ala ghanami. Right, with Musa alayhi salam, when he leans on his stick sometimes, and ittaka is to completely lean back, your back is relaxed, and you can put your weight on whatever cushion you're sitting on or couch you're sitting on. So they're going to be sitting on a rafraf. Rafraf is actually delicate silks. So the last time we saw istabraq on the inside, and now we're seeing delicate silk materials on the outside. So this is basically your mattress cover, your cushion cover, your couch covers. That's what's being described as very delicate materials. And it's also something that's shiny. So it's got some kind of a level of sheen. Like you can think of it as like almost like a velvet, like a thin velvet is the kind of seating that Allah is describing. But again, the color comes back. Rafrafin khudrin. It's green velvet. So really interesting. Again, this description of Jannah, the second levels of Jannah were described starting with lush greenery, and now you're sitting in greenery. I also think of seating as, you know how we talked about bringing the inside out? So you're surrounded by greenery, and then your seating kind of matches the decor of the outside. You know, when we think of interior design or design in general, we have to decide whether we're designing for the inside or the outside, right? And the materials differ. So you cannot use delicate materials outdoors because the weather elements will destroy those materials. So you have to have tougher, weather resistant, water resistant, wind resistant, that kind of stuff outside. It's not going to go bad, right? If you take your most expensive sofa from the living room and put it in the backyard, it's going to be 3 days before it's destroyed, right? Covered in dust and all of it. But Jannah is a different life. We're outdoors, we're surrounded by greenery and waterfalls and all of it. And now we've got these cushions. And of course, this can also be describing the cushions that are inside of those tents that were just described. So the idea of hurun maqsuratun fil khiyam can be reinforced by muttaki'ina ala rafrafin khudrin. But it seems like this is some special other kind of seating where they're just seated and maybe they're ready to entertain other guests, because the idea of rafrafin khudr is actually maybe kind of the living room area where they're going to talk to somebody else. But Allah doesn't mention any other company. What's interesting though is the very next ayah Allah will talk about Himself. So there's a subtle hint whose company is about to take place. It's Allah's company. Now the thing is, when we enter into Allah's company, we enter into Allah's company with a very formal demeanor. We stand before Allah, we hold our hands, we humble ourselves, we come before Allah in the clothing of Hajj, and we say, Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. But in Jannah, you get to be relaxed in the company of Allah. This is new, right? This is a new experience with Allah that we haven't had before, because you've already met Allah's expectations. And now you get to be with Allah in this much more relaxed fashion. So, muttaki'ina ala rafrafin khudr. So this, again, some commentary on the word rafraf. وَهُوَ مَا يُبْسَطُ عَلَى الْفِرَاشِ لِيُنَامَ عَلَيْهِ. So this is the kind of spreading that's put on the bedding so you can sleep on it. Basically like bed sheets kind of thing, or cushion covers. وهي تنسج على شبه الرياض ويغلب عليها اللون الأخضر. قال الجوهري الرفرف ثياب خضر تتخذ منها المجالس محابس. This is also green coverings that you make awnings with, like beds have awnings and things like that. So this can be referring to that, but it's definitely referring to something that's widespread. That's one common meaning of the word rafraf. It's not just one; it's like laid out. So it's a large living area. If this was just about you and your seating, then you wouldn't see the word rafraf. So there's a vastness inside the meaning. So now moving on to abqari. So abqar, nowadays in modern Arabic, abqari is used for a genius. Right, so that's modern Arabic. It's العربية الفصحى المعاصرة. وليس هكذا في لغة العرب يعني منذ قديم. So العبقر والعبقرة من النساء المرأة التارة الجميلة, a very beautiful, uniquely beautiful, stunningly beautiful woman was actually called a عبقرة. Similarly, الطنافذ الثخان واحدها عبقرية والديباج, the very exotic imported rugs that have embroidery from another land, those were also called abqar. So right now we see a woman, the beauty of which you've never seen before, or rugs, the design of which you've never seen before because it's coming from outside, it's imported. That's abqar. Al-fakhir min al-hayawan wal-jawhar. This is actually also a very exotic animal. It can be called abqar. A very exotic jewel can be called abqar. Dhulmun abqari, malun abqari, rajulun abqari. كامل في صفته كأنه لا نظير له. A person, a man could be called abqari, money could be called abqari, a crime can also be called abqari, something you've never seen the likes of before. Something that you've never seen anything like it before. It's not perfection, it's unheard of, unseen, unimagined. You're seeing something you've never seen before. That's called abqari. So now there's an evolution in the language. You saw some kind of palm trees, you've never seen them before. Some kind of pomegranate, you've never seen them before. Nakhlun rumman. Previously you saw there's some kind of fire, you've never seen that kind of fire before. Marijim min nar, it was nakira. So some kind of fire, we don't know what kind of fire that is. Now we're seeing beautiful, exotic things. And by the way, just because something you've never seen before doesn't mean it's good. Right? Like I keep telling you, I'm into interior design, that sort of thing. So sometimes when you go to these home decor places, or designer places. There's the retail places, like you can go to like an IKEA or whatever, right? But then there's these specialized design places where they sell their corner pieces and vases and whatever. Some of those things are so ugly, like they're so ugly. And they're so expensive. There's like $8,000 for a broken pot because it represents the brokenness of the artist's soul or whatever, right? Or they'll have like this giant canvas painting and there's a blotch of paint and it's a $20,000 painting because it represents chaos. Even though the guy hired a monkey to just throw paint at it and then he's selling it to like, because it's abqari, definitely it's never seen anything like it except in a painting accident, right? But it's not hisan. They're not beautiful, right? So just because something is abqari doesn't make it hisan, right? It's art. Yeah, it's art, but I have other words for it. So there's abqari, hisan together actually suggests now you're going to see things you've never seen before, but actually those things are more beautiful than you've ever seen before. What's interesting in the world of design, whether it's fashion design or architectural design or interior design, sometimes people just do weird stuff just because it's different. And everybody says, wow, that's amazing. Not because it's amazing, just because it's different. Right? Just because somebody will design some weird shirt with like a collar or like a shoulder pad sticking out on the side like they're a space alien. And they're walking down wow, this is what I'm going to wear to work. And they like... just because and then of course this is not just a new thing. Kings, royalties, they used to wear the most ridiculous robes, right? If you look at ancient kings and the kind of, they're wearing like these floral and dragons and all this kind of stuff they're wearing, and they look absolutely absurd, but they look different from everybody else, right? Just because you got to be different, now this must be an amazing thing. This is the human desire for something abqari. Also, abqari, interestingly, وصف لما كان فائقا في صنفه عزيز الوجود اسم بلاد الجن في معتقد العرب. In Arab mythology and Arab poetry, Abqar was considered the land of the jinn, the world of the jinn. And why is that important? Because they thought jinns live in another world. So if you brought something from there, then you brought it from the land of the jinn. So if you see an imported item, then they'll call that item abqari. If we had a time travel machine and I took a phone, a smartphone, like an iPhone back to Arabia, and I showed it to somebody, they would say, ooh, abqari, right? Because this is coming from some alien world. It's a place we've never seen before, right? So this word, it illustrates our desire for the imported. And it's interesting that even now, imported items are more expensive. Local items are not, right? And you go to, when you go to cities like if you go to Turkey, or if you go to like, Somalia, Pakistan, any Muslim countries, they have their own arts and crafts, right? Their local arts and crafts. And nobody there buys any of that stuff. Who buys this stuff? Tourists, because then they get to say, I have an imported item. Right? So they bring that stuff back. There's a Pakistani restaurant in Toronto that has a rickshaw inside it. There's actually one in Dallas too now. There's a rickshaw inside it. And the charpai, those beds that are made of straw? Right? The one that you leave a nice imprint on your back if you sleep on them? Right? They have that. They're sitting in the restaurant just because it looks exotic. Like this is imported, right? A feeling from somewhere else. So Allah is describing now that we are in a part of Jannah where we're seeing things that nobody's ever seen before. And there's a beauty that's never been experienced before. It's a really profound way of ending the conversation about Jannah, because it's actually taking us from the things that we could kind of imagine. You can imagine waterfalls, you can imagine fruits, you can imagine couches, you can imagine green cushions, you can imagine that stuff. But by the time you get to abqariyin, this is now a different category. And it's abaqir. Abaqir is the plural. Abaqira. But it's not used. Hisan is plural. The adjective is plural. It's unique because in Arabic, if the noun is singular, then the adjective should be singular. But here the noun is actually singular, but the adjective is plural. So it's an unusual rhetorical device that's being used here as if to suggest that each item will have multiple dimensions of beauty. Maybe the smell, maybe the sight, maybe the color, maybe every time you look at it from a different angle, a different beauty of it comes out. And what are these items? Are they food items? Are they lamps? Are they palaces? Are they people? What are they? We're not told. We're just told there's an untold kind of multi-dimensional beauty waiting for you as you sit back on these couches. See, previously you saw fruits and the fruits came down to you when you sat down, right? But fruits are still something ma'loof, something you know. Okay, I know what a fruit is. But now you're sitting back and you're like, whoa, and you're just looking at these new, beautiful experiences. And of course, beyond all of those experiences is going to be the ultimate beauty. Inna Allaha jamilun yuhibbul jamal, right? So He's going to expose Himself, and we're going to get to meet Allah Azza wa Jal Himself in this remarkable way. So فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. And then finally, تَبَارَكَ اسْمُ رَبِّكَ ذِي الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. This ayah, very heavy, very powerful conclusion to this surah. Tabaraka is, let me just roughly translate it for you. So in easy English, not really that easy English translation would be, blessed is the name of your master. Blessed is the name of your master. Dhil Jalali wal Ikram, the possessor of, Al-Jalal means greatness, glory, and Al-Ikram means generosity, the owner of greatness and generosity, right? So Allah's greatness will of course be manifest when the connection to what we just heard. Allah's greatness is finally manifest when we actually meet with Allah. And His generosity is being manifested throughout with all these different dimensions of His generosity that have been talked about. But we have to kind of take each piece of this at a time. The word Tabaraka comes from the word birka, which is when water settles, or when a camel sits down and it won't move. That's actually called birka, when something gets settled and stays. The thing is, when you go somewhere exotic, and we've all been to some vacation somewhere that's not our normal, right? When you go somewhere exotic, you know you can't stay there forever. It's temporary, right? And now we're at the height of exotic. But this is not a temporary stay, this is permanent. This is permanent. It's also interesting that we saw gardens opening up, more gardens opening up, more gardens opening up, and you're exploring more and more, but now you're sitting and the world around you is changing. You're not even going anywhere, you're just in the same place, and your scenery keeps on changing, right? So there's this idea that you're settled and more is coming out. So al-birka, again, something for the camel to sit down. The other meaning, the important meaning of baraka is thabatun wa istimrar ma'a lutf, wa min dhalika al-baraka muharraka an-nama'u wa ziyada. Something that's settled and something that keeps on growing. I like to, when I'm teaching this kind of vocabulary to kids, just so they understand the concept of baraka, you guys ever play Jenga blocks? Right? Jenga blocks, the taller the tower gets, the more unstable it gets, right? Now imagine a set of Jenga blocks, the more it grows, the more stable it gets. That would be baraka. It's something that's stable and gets more and more stable and keeps on growing also. Because anything else, the more it grows, the more unstable it gets. Right? And that's the human experience. Empires grow. And as they grow, they get weaker from within. The Roman Empire grew too big to be sustainable. They couldn't supply their military and their governorship, the resources they needed. They got stretched too thin. They broke apart. Right? So governments can become too big and then fail. Right? Businesses can become too big and fail. They're not able to maintain the quality anymore. That can happen. Right? The same way, by the way, masjids sometimes get too big and fail. Right? Small community, everybody was getting along, and then they got big, and now, mashallah, new kinds of fights, new kinds of drama, new kinds of board elections and all kinds of stuff. Allah protect our masajid from fitna. But that happens when there's no barakah. But barakah is something is growing, and as it's growing, it's also staying stable. Right? Both of those things together. Now Allah is saying, when we say, I hope Allah puts barakah in your work, Allah puts barakah in your family. We say these things, right? What we're saying is, I hope Allah gives your family growth, more, enhances them in rizq, in health, in good things, and also sustains that goodness. But that goodness doesn't make life unstable, right? So both of those things together is actually what barakah means. So now tabaraka means the thing that possesses barakah in it. Okay, so when Allah calls His name something that has barakah in it, that means when we call on Allah's name, we are trying to bring barakah into anything that we're doing. The thing that has the power to bring barakah in anything, stability and growth is actually Allah's name. And so He says, how full of barakah is the name of your master. The question though is, the name of Allah is Allah. And the word Allah has not been used in the entire surah. Right? But what's incredible, I told you this is why the first ayah is a section by itself. What was the first ayah of the surah? Ar-Rahman. And the last ayah of the surah says, blessed is the name of your master. You see how beautiful that is? This actually now taking us back to ayah number 1 and saying how incredible is that name. And it's so beautiful that whenever we want something to have blessings, we say Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. In the center of those names is Ar-Rahman, and then we do whatever we do to have barakat in it. Right? So Tabaraka Asmu Rabbika. How blessed is the name of your master. The name also means the description or the qualities. Actually, is something that we're going to read through all of these because they're really beautiful insights. وصفه تعالى بكمال البركة والبركة والخير العظيم والنفع تطلق البركة على علو الشأن, meaning Allah is now alluding to His greatness, that Allah is so great that even saying His name can bring goodness in your life. Like even just saying His name brings about goodness in your life. You know how people nowadays, there's a manifest positive energy. You know, manifest positivity. Stupid. Like, call on Allah's name. That's positivity. Don't if you just believe that the interview is going to go well, then it's just going to happen. No, when you can put barakah in what you're doing. Like they're talking about all these things that Allah has talked about. All they just do is remove Allah from the equation and then talk about it. Right? That's all is all what they do. And then people are like, what do you think about manifesting positivity? Can you read Fatiha, please? That's manifesting positivity. These fancy new things that are actually not fancy at all, and they're not new at all, and something so much better has been given to us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? تنزيه وتقديس له تعالى فيه تقرير لما ذكر في هذه السورة الكريمة من آلائه جل شأنه الفائضة على الأيام. He's saying it's this name, it's as if, all this time, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. How many more wonders are you going to undermine? How many more wonders are you going to undermine? And every wonder of Allah is simply a manifestation of one of Allah's names. When you see a wonder of Allah, you're reminded of one of Allah's names and how blessed it is and how it creates what it creates. Like Allah is, Al-Qadir, the one who measures and controls, and you see the universe and you just see Al-Qadir. Right? You see, Ar-Raziq when you see a fruit. You see Ar-Rahman and, Al-Wadud when you see a baby. You see Al-Wadud, the loving one. The love that a mother has and a father has for their child is actually coming from the source of all love, Al-Wadud. You see Allah's names manifest in everything around you. So actually, you're not just denying or losing out on the wonders of Allah. You're losing out on the names of Allah. Right? Behind every wonder of Allah is a name of Allah. And Allah says in the end, whether you deny it or not, those names are full of blessings anyway. Right? Tabaraka Asmu Rabbika. So now, إشارة إلى أن الباقي والدائم لذاته هو الله تعالى لا غير والدنيا فانية. So it's coming back to that same idea. The world is going to end, and the only thing that's going to remain, that's going to stay and continue to, its power continues only to grow, is actually the name of Allah. That's the only thing that stays forever. Which is actually interesting because the last time we heard this kind of concept was كُلُّ مَنْ عَلَيْهَا فَانٍ وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ ذُو الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. Right? So it's the same kind of idea being reinforced at the end with similar language. إشارة إلى أن أتم النعم عند الله وأكمل الذات ذكر الله تعالى. This is Allah saying, as if Allah saying, the greatest blessing a human being can have is to mention Allah's name. Like just to be able to mention Allah's name is one of the greatest blessings you and I can have. I talked about this when I was teaching Surah Al-Insan, but it sticks with me. It hits me every time I talk about it. It's like, we just got to keep thinking about it. I often say that the universe, the known universe, is about 13.9 billion years. Billion light years. So that means light, we know how fast light is, takes 13.9 billion years to reach us from the vast ends of and it's still expanding. This is what we know so far. And the sun is so far from us that the rays of the sun reach us in 8 minutes. I mentioned that before, right? But this is just the first sky. How many skies are there? There's 7 skies, and Allah is above the 7 skies, right? And the angels that are, doing tawaf around the arsh, right? All of that is beyond the 7 skies. And the first sky, this 13.9 billion years is like a ring in the desert compared to the second sky. And that second sky is a ring compared to a desert in the third. You guys know that hadith, right? So all the way to the seventh. And we know that the speed of light, as fast as it is, isn't fast enough to cover the distance of the universe in the way that, you may be seeing a star right now in the sky that's already died billions of years ago. But you're seeing its light because it took that long to get here, and by the time it gets to you, the star's already dead, right? But much slower than the speed of light is the speed of sound, isn't it? I mean, there are jets that fly faster than the speed of sound, right? They break the sound barrier. Okay, when I make dhikr of Allah, when I just say Alhamdulillah, it's sound, isn't it? And this sound, in that very moment, travels all 7 skies and reaches Allah. And Allah responds. أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ. Right? That is the power of the name of Allah. Tabaraka asmu rabbika. Right? The way that it reaches to Allah beyond the skies, because there's a connection between us and Allah that is greater than this entire universe. So if you just think about that and then think about what does it mean to just mention Allah's name? What does it mean to just do dhikr of Allah? Just the way you think of the words Subhanallah or La ilaha illallah or Allahu Akbar or reciting an ayah of the Quran. It changes. The universe becomes small compared to the word of Allah. The universe becomes small, So then, أنه تعالى ذكر جميع اللذات في الجنات ولم يذكر لذة السماع وهي من أتم أنواعها فقال متكئين على رفرف خضر يسمعون ذكر الله تعالى. He says he mentioned all the pleasures of Jannah. He didn't mention hearing. Things to see, things to taste, things to touch, but not hearing. One of the senses is missing. And he says finally they're sitting back and they're remembering Allah, or they're getting to talk to Allah, the ultimate pleasure, hearing Allah Himself. Subhanallah. And what a correspondence. The surah began with us talking to Allah, or Allah talking to us in the Quran, and we're ending with Allah talking to us in Jannah. This is mind-blowing what's happening inside the surah. So, Tabaraka asmu rabbika dhil jalali wal Tabaraka bima'na ala. فَمَنْ عَلَى اسْمُهُ كَيْفَ يَكُونُ مُسَمَّاهُ. He says, Tabaraka means how high, how lofty, how grand Allah's name. And he says, if the name is so grand, how must He be? That's just His name. Then how must He be? And in this dunya, we get to say His name. But in the next life, we get to experience not just His name, but we get to experience Him. We get to experience Him. So, these are just some of the things. بمعنى دام الخير عنده فهو إشارة أن ذكر اسم الله تعالى يزيل الشر ويهرب الشيطان ويريد الخير ويقرب السعادات. وأما إن قلنا بمعنى دام اسم الله فهو إشارة إلى دوام الذاكرين في الجنة. Allah. He says, this word is so powerful that now we know that just by saying this word, all these shayateen that were helping their kuffar friends, those shayateen can't do anything to you because what you have with you is so much more mighty. It's the word of Allah that you have. And then on top of that, he adds this eternal nature of the name of Allah, the foreverness of Allah's name. The people who carry it, Allah gives them foreverness in Jannah. Right? So there's a connection being made in the lasting nature of Allah's name and the lasting joys of Jannah. They've been tied together just by Tabaraka asmu rabbika dhil jalali wal ikram.
Coming up next time in this Surah Ar-Rahman series.
This is our book, guys. It's our book. And and you're reading translation, like, I don't understand it. I have a hard time relating to it. And that's why I don't even know. Stop with the attitude. Stop being lazy. Stop making excuses. And give the book what it deserves.